Thank you, Stephen, for the introduction, and thank you, Dr. Matu, for co-hosting the webinar series with me.
Hello,
Chad.
Hello, everybody. Welcome, and let's get started.
So we have arrived at the end of this webinar series. Today's webinar will bring everything to a close. We'll tie all the loose ends, and hopefully will be a resounding ending to this, what we believe is a very successful webinar with a lot of practical information. So, as usual, we want to recap what we have covered in the previous 5 sessions. Just in a nutshell, is that the best way for you to achieve outstanding client experience and much better outcome in your practice, good economy or bad, is to approach your client experience in a more professional manner. What do we mean? Is that we know ahead of time what it means to have an outstanding client experience. You plan and design it, you test it, you improve it until you have a full circle of an outstanding client experience. So we began our journey to improving client experience in your practice by the phone, and we went a whole circle. And now we have reached to the last stage, which is your team. Because everything begins and ends with your team. Unless your team does what they're supposed to, then the client experience will not be complete. Now, what we have covered so far, and as a segue to what we're going to be speaking about today when it comes to your team and what happens in the practice, is that everything matters. Everything that happens in your practice either helps the client experience or hurts it. There is no such thing as a neutral interaction with clients. Please pay attention to this. This is truly crucial. Every interaction either makes the client experience more unique, or you lose client experience, the control over client experience, and therefore you leave so much to chance. And so in the client's mind, you lose the way you stand out in their minds and hearts. So that's what we're going to focus on today. At the heart of everything, as we've indicated repeatedly, is your teamwork. If you have a good teamwork, if you have a strong team, then the phone team will be successful. If you have a strong team, then when people come to the practice, they will receive an outstanding client experience. If you have a strong team, if you pay attention to everything that happens in the practice, not just when your staff is interacting with clients, but in between stations, what we call the transitions. If you pay attention to them and you have a strong team to do so, then the client experience will continue to grow. If you have a strong team who knows how to improve and continue to grow the client experience in the exam room, you will see, as the doctors, you will see an ever-growing and improving client experience and ever-growing and improving client compliance, ever better results. And if you have a strong team who knows what to do, how to educate clients even when they're not in the practice, the client experience will continue to improve to no end. So what do we mean by teamwork? If you have a weak team, or even if you do not have a strong enough team, if you have an average team, you lose a great degree of control over client experience. Why? Because if you create a message and if you are determined to stand out within the crowd as far as client experience, and we have discussed that this is your best edge, your teamwork, the way your team interacts with clients, cannot contradict this image. Any contradiction will damage the image. And unfortunately, in most cases, because not enough attention is given to building a strong team, too much is left to chance. What I mean by that is what people say to clients or not is left to chance. But what clients say to people at at the practice and how what they say is processed and elaborated and incorporated in the process of improving client experience does not get done systematically. The words that the staff uses when speaking to clients are left to chance. People say whatever they feel they need to say at the moment. And there's no control over the impact of what people say on results. Therefore, there's no way to improve things. If you have a team that does not work in harmony, it takes only one person. In fact, it takes only one action of one person that goes in an opposite direction to where the rest of the team goes, to where the rest of the team has decided to go. That will stop the progress. That will stop the process of ever improving client experience. Also, a weak team is a team that does not have common goals, a team that does not even know what goals are, and a team that does not have a common vision, and a team that has not bought into the common vision. Hopefully that clarifies what we mean by a weak team. Jazz, anything you want to add to what a weak team is?
Yes, those are the bottom lines. However, a lot of time, I think all of us do have a book in our office somewhere catching dust with all the protocols that we have written, and we sometimes even get employee signatures to cover our legal requirement. We might get them that they have read that book and that they're going to comply with your protocols, but then there is no follow-up on it. What happens is people do the things with their own mind because they do not remember that book. It's meaningless. They start doing and saying the things based on what they feel like, and there is no common goal. When was the last time that the whole team had as a top priority that client experience is our topmost priority? And minimum standards, these are the minimum standards. This is our priority. And this is the way we say the things. When was it practiced? So written things mean not much except training, and practice on the simplest thing that we might think that people are going to do on their own, and it looks very simple. However, for consistency, they need to be repeatedly practiced and checked every month or two. Everybody should be checked to see if there is a consistency or not. Believe me, people start playing to their own drum very fast. As soon as you finish the training session, the habits start creeping in. So for consistency, need to go back and check and team training and keep that goal and vision in the minds, repeatedly asking people, what is the goal? It's not outrageous to go and just randomly ask you, do you remember our goals? You know why we are here? Those kind of things, very, very important to keep the team culture in place.
Very good. So the flip side is also true. In a strong team, everybody knows exactly what to say and how to say it. Everybody knows why to say. This is crucial. Not just what we say and how we say, but why we need to say this. What is the common theme for the reason we say what we say? What are we here to achieve? These are the hallmarks of a strong team. In addition, in a strong team, everybody knows exactly what to do every single moment of the day. And I want to repeat, not just so I come to work and I know what I need to do, but I need to know what I need to do every single moment of the day. Everything has been planned for maximum client experience. That's how it's done. That's how a team becomes strong. In a strong team, all outcomes can be measured very easily. And you guys, most of you, guys and girls, you who are on the call are Impromed members. Impromed is a very powerful software which allows you to measure everything if you know what questions to ask it. So hopefully by the end of this call today, you will have a better idea what information you need to follow to know how effective your team is in what they say and how to say it, and how effective your team is when it comes to their understanding of why they say what they need to say, why they are expected to behave in a certain way. all that is measurable. However, there is a caveat, and we're going to talk about it in a moment. So let's then go ahead and help you create a stronger team in your practice. Even if you believe you have a strong team in your practice, there's no telling what a stronger team will do to you. First and foremost, the first step in building a stronger team is to understand and to shift from a people-based practice to a positions-based practice. So what do I mean by people-based? If you look at the drawing on this slide, this is a soccer field. You can liken it to a football field or a basketball game. It doesn't matter. You, the spectator, what you see are players attempting to score, attempting to win. However, these players, what goes behind the scene of these players is that they are positions. And why is this important? Just like on a soccer or a football field, same with your practice. People, players in your team are unpredictable. We are all unpredictable. When your team comes to work in the morning, there's no telling how they're going to react to what people say. There's no telling what they're going to say, if they're going to remember what they need to say, and if they know when to say what they need to say. There's no way to predict it because we're all unpredictable. Also, human beings, players on a team are all inconsistent. One moment they can be great, another moment they can be mediocre, and a third moment they can be awful because they did not read the situation right, or because they were influenced by other circumstances that have nothing to do with what is going on right now. I hope you are beginning to see the weakness that your team has at the moment. Another reason that teams are not strong when the practice is people-based is that people cannot be measured. How can I measure Jennifer's ability to contribute to the success of the practice? What does it mean to measure Jennifer? She is not measurable, as is David and Dawn. Impossible to measure people. So unless you find a way to reprimand this, to remedy for this, unless you find a way to be able to measure what everybody does, unless you find a way to systematize every interaction that happens in the practice, your team cannot become stronger. Now, what does it mean to be in a position-based practice? Let me use the analogy of a forklift driver. So imagine you operate a lumber yard, and you have a lot of big logs on the ground, lying on the ground, and you have a crew of people lifting the logs and carrying them around. Sometimes somebody has back pain, sometimes somebody has an injury, sometimes somebody doesn't feel strong, therefore they cannot carry the logs well. Or sometimes somebody complains about how difficult it is to carry these heavy logs. Now, enter a forklift. Forklift is a machine. A forklift is a position because a forklift always works as a forklift. As long as somebody knows how to operate that forklift, the forklift, rain or shine, day or night, Saturdays, Sundays, or Mondays, is always going to be functioning as a forklift. So if the forklift is operated properly, the forklift can do the job of 5, 6, 7 people without ever getting tired. You see the advantage? Logs get moved, get processed a lot faster with more consistency because somebody is sitting in the forklift chair and operating that forklift, knows how to do it well, doesn't break their back, doesn't get tired. It is the forklift that does the job. Same thing with positions in the practice. So in a practice-based position, in a position-based practice, the positions are what people see. The positions are what interact with people because positions are very, very highly predictable. Positions are very, very highly designable. Positions can be measured for results. People cannot. As long as we create a practice where the positions take care of business. People operate the positions. Now, all of a sudden, we have predictability. Now, all of a sudden, we have consistency in everything that is done from within these positions. Now, all of a sudden, we all function in a way that all positions work in the same way for the same purpose. So, Jazz, anything you wanted to add to this?
Nope. One small thing is on the positions is that people, when they are in one position, let's say you have a person who is answering the phone in the front, and then later on during the day, that same person might go to work in the exam room. So those are two different positions, and there should be a clear set of job description and clear set of those checklists, like you see on the screen, that needs to be followed. Person could be the same person doing multiple jobs. However, that position is a constant. I just want to make that distinction that a person can shift from position to position. However, that person must understood that it's operating a different forklift now. This is a different machine, and it requires different set of requirements, different skill set, and must perform within the guidelines of that position, instead of being the guidelines of personal personality or personal belief. So that's a distinction I wanted to clarify here.
Just like in a chess set, the only way that if you like chess and you want to get better at chess, the only way you can do so is if you learn to create positions. Because if you can achieve certain positions in chess, you're going to get a great advantage over an opponent who functions without a plan. And the only way you can achieve position is if you plan in advance how to achieve them. Same thing with your practice. Once you start planning your positions, where everybody needs to do, what everybody needs to say, how everybody needs to interact with everybody else, and when you can achieve this, you're going to create a tremendous advantage over where you were before and over everybody else who doesn't understand what it means to function from a position-based practice. So we're talking about positions. Let's then show you how you can create positions in your practice. I want to emphasize, so we are not talking about a Jennifer who answers the phone. We're talking about Jennifer's position. So Jennifer holds a receptionist position. It is not about Jennifer. It is about her position. It is not about Dr. Linda Thomas, who is a veterinarian. It's not about Linda. It's about the veterinarian position that Linda holds. It is not about Bill, the office manager. It is about the management position that Bill holds. There's a huge difference. And only if you understand the huge difference and what it means for Bill to function as a manager and for Bill to hold a management position, now you can begin to understand the power you have in your mind, that secret that you now understand what it means to be a positions-based practice. So what we're going to show you now is applicable to any person in any position in the practice, even the person who cleans the cages, even your veterinary assistant. It's not about Jenny, the veterinary assistant. It's about the veterinary assistant's position that Jenny happens to hold. Okay. So what does that mean? For you to create a successful position, a successful vehicle to improve client compliance and client experience, or anything that gets done in the practice, every position has to have a general purpose. Every position has to have a general purpose. What does that mean? Is that every position is there to contribute something to the overall success of that practice. So you and your team need to sit down and you need to decide what is the receptionist position there to do for the success of the practice. Let's define it. That's the first step. Okay, technicians. What is the technician's positions supposed to do to contribute to the success of the practice? Doctors. What is the doctor's position there to do to contribute to the success of the practice? Although every position has a different purpose, but every position needs to have a purpose, because this will allow you to start beginning to build the position so that, in fact, every position contributes to the success of the practice. So in a way, you start creating your positions with the end in mind. You know what you want every position to do. Now you put forth the steps to achieve this outcome. But first you need to have that outcome in mind. That's the first thing you need to do when you create positions, any position. The second component of every position should be a specific purpose. A specific purpose defines what does every position need to do in order for it to be successful. Now, you remember I said a moment ago that people cannot be measured. The position they hold can. So I need to find a way to be able to measure the position they hold. How can I do this? By defining what a successful position is. So once I say for a position to be successful, the following has to happen. So it doesn't matter if it is Jennifer, Bill, or David who hold a position. It doesn't matter at all. As long as Jennifer, Bill, and David achieve the outcome that I want them to achieve, I know that they have done the job right. Of course, there are many other things that have to be in place for them to be able to do so. But now you're defining how can you can begin measuring how well every person in the team does within his or her position. So that's the second component. The third component are the position's requirements. Now, clearly, for someone to hold a veterinary position in your practice, they need to have a veterinary license, right? They need to have a veterinary license in the specific state. But that's where it only begins. If the requirements are too low, then the barrier to entry are so low that anybody can take that position, and you know what happens. So if the only barrier that you have for a receptionist position is that he or she can answer the phone, then you know what is going to happen. You can almost predict it. Now look back at the times when you hired the wrong person, and only to find out after a few days that you have hired the wrong person. Now hopefully you're starting to understand why you've hired the wrong person, because you didn't know what are the necessary requirements for that position. Using the analogy of the forklift is a wonderful machine, is a wonderful position. However, somebody needs to know how to drive that forklift, right? Someone needs to have a license to drive that forklift. Someone needs to be effective at driving their forklift. It's not just about knowing how to turn the forklift on and driving it. It's knowing also about how to operate it effectively. So this is another requirement. So what you need to do then is sit down, and for every position you want to create in your practice for your team, is you need to create a list of requirements. What do they need to have in place, both in knowledge and in attitude? Very important, both in aptitude and in attitude. Even for a doctor, aptitude is the doctor has a DVM degree. The doctor knows how to do surgery. But is this enough for that person to occupy and operate a successful DVM position? We all know it is not. We also need to talk about attitude. So you need to find a way to be able to measure before you hire a new doctor that this particular person has the right attitude that you have designed to be able to create a successful veterinarian position. Same thing for the receptionist. So you need to create the specific requirements and then organize them based on importance. Some requirements may not be there, but they are teachable. Some other requirements, if are not there, cannot, because they are attitude related. So the third component is the requirements. The fourth component for creating a successful position is the job description. So once the first three are in place, now you can sit down and plan what, for every person who holds every position, what are the things that they are expected to do every day. So you create a list of all the tasks. You can catalog them or categorize them based on daily functions, weekly, monthly, and so forth. So there's got to be a way for you to say, for that position to achieve the outcome that I wanted to achieve, here are all the tasks that that position needs to do. So you create a list of all the tasks, you try them out, and then you keep adding and subtracting You discuss it with the team until you come up with a good job description. These are the tasks that are going to make that person be able to discharge the functions from within the position. The next component of a successful position, any position, is the checklist. So once a job description list has been created, then that job description is turned into a checklist. Checklists, do not discount the power of checklists. Every important position, going from a airline jet pilot to doctors who perform surgery to everything else, they function from a checklist. If you don't believe that checklists are crucial to your success, I highly recommend to read a book called The Checklist Manifesto. I'm not going to explain what the book is about, but it is a highly recommended book for you, The Checklist Manifesto, a really good book about the importance of checklists. So what is a checklist there to do? The checklist of every position says that as long as this person has done everything on the checklist every day, I know that they have achieved the purpose of their position. There's one more component which we're going to talk about in a moment, but for now, the checklist talks about the what. So what does every person need to do in every position they hold for them to have discharged their outcome and achieve the outcome of their position? That's what checklists are for. Checklists need to be controlled, they need to be verified, but with the checklist now you can start measuring the outcome. Because if you know that if you can verify, of course you trust people's integrity, that they don't check off things, and that it cannot go for too long. If somebody cheats on the checklist, that's going to get caught quickly. But if everybody does the checklist well, and you measure it, and you control and verify the fact that they have, then you can rest assured that the outcome has been successful. Now, there's one more important component for every position. The checklist checks the what, focuses on the what. Checklist makes sure that what they are supposed to do to achieve the outcome has been done. Another important component is how. It's not enough just to do something. It is equally important how well they do things. That's why you have the sixth component of every position, which are monitors. Monitors, again, with Impromed should be very easy for you to implement. Monitors are parameters or measurements that you need to implement for every position to be able to measure the outcome of every function that they do. Or so what you do is you create key 4 or 5 monitors for each position that you measure constantly. And as long, you can assume that as long as these monitors are being accomplished, then the other monitors or the other measurements are there too. And being able to measure everything that they do, the outcome, this is how you switch from what people do as actions to what people do as outcome, as productivity. Now you switch from activity to productivity. So these are the components of a successful position. Anything you wanted to add, Chad?
No, well described. Those just so that people can start putting this action into the practice, there is to start describing their positions, which is their job description. They already have that, but somehow extract what is most important in that job description for that position and make a checklist. And then out of that, start making the monitors, the one that will tell you how well is that job being done. Just checking the checklist off sometimes is not enough. People can check it off. And like Steve said, that it's about productivity and not activity. So we want to do both. And then at some point, the purpose is if there is a discrepancy, if there is they're not complying with the activity and the productivity, they are not on the same graph in the same direction, then there might be some difference. You can find out when we were talking earlier, if there is a problem with values. There's a problem with attitude. There's a problem with the people's willingness to do what needs to be done. So that's how you monitor those internal values. These numbers will tell you where a person is standing, because otherwise, yeah, we can be all happy on the lips and we can be all hugging and happy and shaking hands. When it comes, when rubber meets the road, these are the things that tell you the belief inside. Behavior is basically an expression of internal belief. And how do you monitor it? These are the ways to find out, is the activity in accordance with the productivity? If it's not, there is some issue. So I wanted to help with make sure that our audience is able to understand and start implementing that starting tomorrow.
Very well. Another component of a strong team is that a strong team has a strong leadership. So we're briefly going to explain what a strong leadership is. However, before we explain what a strong leadership is, we're going to explain what are weak leadership styles and what are the very common leadership styles we see in practice. So the first leadership style, the most common leadership style and the least effective leadership style is called parental leadership. Now, we've all been children, and we've all had parents, and we've all been guided and ruled around by our parents, and we've all absorbed what it means to be a parent. We are, most of us are parents already, and we probably are doing the same thing with our children. What is a parental leadership? Is we get upset over things because things don't go our way. We tell our staff to do something and they don't do it. We expect them to do things and they don't do it. They do things wrong, and so we absorb the energy, the negative energy. We get angry and we get angrier and we get angrier, and then we finally cannot hold it anymore when we explode. We do something irrational. We yell at people. We put them in a meeting and something happens, a client complains, and that is it. Then we are going to talk with the staff. We yell at them. We tell them off, etc., etc., etc. We release the pressure, and then everything goes down to the same leadership style, avoidance, or a parental leadership where we release, we build, we release, and we build, and nothing changes. So it is a not very effective leadership style. Look inside you and see what elements of a parental leadership style you are utilizing in your own practices. Another common leadership style, which is too ineffective, is called a top-to-bottom leadership. In a top-to-bottom leadership, as the management or the leadership component of the practice, we decide on things for everyone else. We decide what our vision is. We decide what our goals are. We decide how we need to do things in the practice, and then we turn over to the team and we tell them, this is what you need to do. We try to explain why we think we need to do this, but it is decisions come from the top and then are filtered downstream. It doesn't work. It doesn't work because the rest of the team has not bought into this. So a top-down leadership style is ineffective as well. The flip side of a top-down leadership is a bottom-top leadership, which is also ineffective. In this leadership style, the leadership team doesn't want to be in charge. I can't tell you how many times I've heard from practice owners, I don't want to run my practice. I don't want to manage my practice. All I want to do is be a veterinarian. So what happens in this case is that they let the team member, the most rusty wheel on the team is whoever sets the tone. And you know what happens when in this case. So in this leadership style, the outcome is given for someone else. You don't bother me with guns. Just let me be a doctor here. So hopefully with this you understand what it means to have a bottom-top leadership style, and hopefully you can recognize, if you recognize some elements of this in your style, that you change it. Now the last leadership style I want to talk about, and the most effective, is called 360-degree leadership style. In this leadership style, every staff member is a leader in his or her own right. every decision that is made in the practice is made as a team. So instead of having a pyramid where the leadership sits at the top, in a 360-degree leadership is almost like a pancake. There are different positions in a 360-degree leadership. There's the owner position, then there's a doctor position, there's the management position, etc. Every position does something else. However, no position is more important than everybody else. This is the key in a 360-degree leadership style. No position is more important. Every position has a task to do. Every position contributes to the success of the other positions. However, in a 360-degree leadership style, every position is accountable. Every position responds to another position, so that there is a network of responsibilities that each position has with another, but in a pancake shape, not in a pyramid shape. So how do we build a 360-degree leadership style in the practice? And a 360-degree leadership style is going to make your team stronger. First thing you need to do is you need to diagnose, like we do with our patients. Before we treat, we need to diagnose. So there's got to be a way for you to be able to diagnose the strength or weakness of your team at the moment. So several ways to do so. The first way is to do a staff evaluation. So you, if you are the leaders of your team, you need to sit down, you need to create a list of all of your team members, and then you ask, first question you ask yourself. First person on that list, knowing what I know about him or her, if he or she came to interview, if he or she came to apply for a job, would I hire him or her again? If the answer is no, then this person needs to go. This person doesn't fit. But that's where it only begins. Even if you say, yes, I would, there's got to be a more finer way for you to be able to judge whether this person is successful, whether this person is a strong team member on all the important parameters, their ability to communicate with clients, their ability to interact with other staff members, their consistency, their ability to learn, their willingness to learn, their ability to work from within positions and not pull the practice in their own position, in their own direction. So these are all important factors that you need to consider for every team member. And then you calculate what is a passing score. And if any of the team members has not passed that score, then this is an area of concern for you. Then you know that this may be a team member who is making your team weak. This is a team member who is not going to let you build a stronger team. So that's one way. Another way is, in order for a team to be strong, it has to have a strong leadership. How do you know? You ask them. So what we suggest to do is to create an anonymous questionnaire so people feel open to say whatever it is that they want to say about the leadership. So you need to create, again, a series of questions that can be graded on its value. Is how do you feel about your leadership ability to do this and this and this? So you create a list of all the things that are important in a leadership, in a strong leadership style. And then you tell your team, now I want you to fill it out. It is anonymous. I won't know who did it. It's a multi-choice, so you don't have to write anything. And then you put it somewhere. I won't even see where you put it, when you put it. I'm not going to know who did it. I want you to be honest. And we are building a strong team, and I need you to tell me. I'm open to hear your comments about my or our leadership skills and style. Why is this so important? First, it's going to show your team that you're truly honest about holding them accountable. If you want them to be stronger, so do you. And the other thing is that it will tell you what areas you need to pay more attention to, what areas maybe you need to improve in. And when you do, you're going to create a stronger team. Another important way to find out how strong your team is at the moment is to see how effective they are every hour of the day. So what we suggest is to have them write down hour by hour what they do in a nutshell. What I did in the first hour of the day, second hour of the day, have them do this for a few days, and then you sit down and you analyze how effective each staff member has been during the hour, during the day. And then you can decide if there are areas where staff members are wasting time, where areas where times that staff members are not effective, then you know that this is a weakness, and that if you remedy this, you're going to create a strong team. Jazz, anything to add on this?
So that's very important. I think as a leader in the hospital, you want to be yourself accountable as much as you're trying to hold other people accountable. And being an anonymous, something that you could probably start tomorrow, create some questionnaire and have it on a scale of 1 to 10 or maybe 1 to 5, rate yourself on your leadership style. You know, how open are you? You know, what's your attitude? How easy are you to approach? What is your communications? And how supportive are you? And those kind of questions you can ask them and have them grade you and find out where you stand. And I think that's your starting point, and then expand it for the accountability to the other team.
Very good. Okay, another important way to build a strong team is to improve the team's culture. Every practice, every business has a culture. Unfortunately, in most cases, in small business, culture is created by chance. Culture just is ignored, and whatever it is, that's how it is. So what is culture? A culture is how we do things here. Culture is a succession of beliefs that team members bring together that combine their beliefs. So if there are any common beliefs that all team members bring together, values that team members bring together, this is what sets the culture together. This is what builds the culture. However, unless a culture is created by design, then what team members believe, what their values are left for the chance. There's no interaction. There's no comparing what each team's members' values are, and therefore one doesn't know what the culture is. One doesn't know how to improve that culture. So hopefully this gives you an idea of how important it is to create a culture by design. If you want your team to be stronger, you need to identify what your team culture is at the moment, and there's a way to do so, as we'll show you. And then you need to find a way to improve that culture. And so a culture is made of values. Values are the beliefs that we all as human beings have about life. Values are the beliefs that we have that we have created since childhood, based on our parents, based on the environment where we grew in, how we are genetically, that guide us throughout our lives. Values are extremely important for the personal success and for the team success. Why? Because if we have deep-seated values, and if we honor these values, we feel good about ourselves. Think of the times at work when you felt elated. Think of the times when you felt great at the end of the day, that this was a good day. Now, if you think about it, what probably happened is you honored some of the most important values for you. Unfortunately, it probably happened by chance, and therefore you missed such a day. Why can't I have more such days? Why? Because you don't know what your values are. Same thing with your team. So what you need to do is you need to do an exercise, and I'm going to show you how you can identify your own values, how you can identify your team values, and how you can use these values to create a better culture and thus make everybody's lives better at the practice, make everybody want to contribute more to the success of the team, the success of the practice. So how do we identify values? Here is a list of questions which we highly recommend you to take back to your practices, and that you sit down with your team and you have them do this exercise question by question. So first question, what must you have to be fulfilled? not what you want to have, but what must you, what is truly important for you to happen for you on the job, for you to be able, when you go home, to say, this was a great day. So have them write down what it is that they must have on the job to be fulfilled. These are values. Second question is a flip side. What makes you angry on the job? So identify the areas that make you upset or angry on the job are a very good way to identify values, because if something makes you angry on the job, then the flip side of it is a value. For instance, if what makes you angry at the job is lack of organization or dirty work environment, right? When you get upset, when every time you see that the surgery or the exam room table are disorganized, if that makes you upset, then your value is to be in order. It may be an important value for you. It doesn't necessarily mean it's important for everybody else. But this is an important question for you and for your team to help you find more important values. Another important question to ask yourself and your team is, what is the most important thing I would like changed here? Because usually when you ask people this question, it takes them to a place of, wow, this is truly important for me. What can I change here to make my life better? And so that one thing is their value. Another important question is, what keeps me coming to work? Is it just a paycheck? Is it because I cannot find another job? Or is it because I'm looking for something here to make me happy, or because I already have something? That something is important to find out. Okay. So when you finish this exercise, then you can ask your staff, okay, so please, each one of you tell me what your answers are, and you can find a common theme. That common theme are the common values you all have. Now you can take these common values and you can rearrange them by an order of importance. So what are the most important values for us in a descending order? Now once you created such a list, then you can focus on the top 4 or 5 values, and now you can create a statement that will encompass these values. This statement is your vision. This statement is what will create a powerful culture in the practice. Why? Because these are the most powerful values that everybody on the team hopefully shares. If someone does not share, if someone doesn't have values, if someone has opposing values, then that person should not be left on the team. Okay. This is also very important as you create your job requirements for your positions. You'd better hire people with similar values. Doesn't matter what position for. If honesty and integrity and hard working are important values to all of you, then these requirements are important for every position. So now you can turn the requirements, you now can turn the values into a way to attract people with similar values. That's how we increase the caliber of your team, by attracting people with similar values. Now you take a good culture and you expand on it by gradually replacing staff members who do not have similar values with those who do. Jazz, anything else?
Nope. It's so important what you just said. To do this, the groundwork is very, very important. We sometimes hire people based on their skill levels and how fast they can work and how efficient they are in doing a checklist or things that you have to be done by the end of the day. But we never understand deep inside if it is in accordance to the values of the team that you have developed, or is it against that grain. And if it's against that grain, it's not going to go too far. That energy that comes out of that work is actually detrimental to the rest of the team. Your hospital, your office will dissipate that energy. So your job or your floor might look clean for the moment, but it will have a different type of energy. So it's very, very important to know what people are made of, what is most important for them, and then put that in a pool and find out what's most important for that position. Let's say for a reception or for an exam room nurse or in the back room. What are those values that you want to carry, and are they in line with the values of the people who are working, or are they in line with the value that you're looking to have your hospital run? Because after all, it's your place and it's your hospital, and you want to do it the way you want to do it, and find the people who are in line with those values. You know, the things that you might have an agreement. You know, such things that we will never charge somebody for something that we have not done. We will never do something before we communicate with the client. Are those the values important? Is we will not allow a pet to suffer in our hands? Is that an important value? I think those are the things that you talk and make a statement on those and have everybody agree to it. And if there is sometimes change that might happen as you grow older in the practice, experience will show that there will be some need to upgrade those values. So you might do that, but it's so important to have a deep meeting with the staff and each team member to find those values.
So now once you've created a strong team or a strong culture, how do you keep that culture growing? How do you keep that culture going? The key is training. If you feel the training is an expense, then you probably don't do much training. We say that if you fail to train, you train to fail. We feel that training is the key. Once you've created the right culture, once you've created the right positions, once you've created the right tasks that every staff member who holds a position needs to do, now it is time to train them to do every task well. Nobody said it is simple, nobody said it's easy, but look at the advantage it's going to give you when every staff member knows exactly what they need to do every moment of the day in order to achieve outstanding client experience and outstanding results. Just think about it. So hopefully you will consider training, or already are consider training as an investment, and if it is an investment, why not do more of it? Another way to keep the culture going and growing is to notice good things in the practice. It may not be easy because we all have the tendency to notice wrong things, bad things, and talk about them. Why not begin noticing good things? Why not rewarding people for things well done, for outcomes, for exceeding expectations outcomes? Why not reward them in front of everybody else and show everybody else that you do notice good things and that you do reward people? Why rewards? Because a behavior rewarded is a behavior repeated. So once you identify good behavior, if you reward it well, that person and everybody else around them will learn that if they do the same, they're going to get rewarded too. Ultimately, though, it is about accountability. A weakness in our profession, as I've said before, and I want to say this as we bring this to conclusion, is that we, in practice, we tend to judge people based on their activity. As long as they come in on time, as long as they don't create big waves, as long as we think they're busy, we let them keep the job. But then we wonder why results are not improving. We say, forget it. Judge people, hold them accountable based on productivity. What does that mean? Is that when people come to work in the morning, they take the key to their position. They get into their position and they start operating their position. A position has a desired outcome. That's part of the definition of a position. Now you have the ability to measure that outcome. Now you can hold people accountable based on their productivity. So when you held that position, did you achieve the outcome we have all decided to achieve? If they do, great, they get a reward. Everybody gets a reward. If they didn't, then they need to go back to the drawing board. They need to be trained again. And then they need to go back and be measured based on their productivity. If it still doesn't improve, then maybe it is something that has to do with their attitude. And we know attitudes are very difficult to change. So maybe it's time to start finding people with better attitudes. So what have we covered on this webinar series? We've covered that being focused on where you're going and what it takes to create an outstanding client experience beats randomness hands down every single time. We've also discussed the consistency in interacting with clients. Consistency in the focus on client experience is always better than leaving things to chance. It's always better than chaos. I hope you understand that your clients are hungry. We're all hungry for an outstanding experience with whatever business we deal with yours too. And that even in this economy, there are still a lot of people who would rather pay more money, who would rather pay money to you and not someone else when they know that the experience they're going to get from you every time is going to be outstanding, that they're going to have fun, that when they leave your practice, they feel better than when they first came into the practice because of the treatment they had received. This is what we've discussed. So before we open up the lines for any questions, if you have any questions about this, if you have any questions on how to build your own positions, if you need assistance in doing so, do not hesitate to send us a message or to call us. This is what we are here to do for you. That is our vision. Otherwise, as a follow-up to the webinar, we are going to offer a free teleseminar on November 14, this month at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We will do a free teleseminar, not a webinar, a teleseminar on how to systematize your practice, on how to build a strong team by system. On this teleseminar, we're going to get into much more detail on how to build positions, what to look for, what are the pitfalls, how to hire the right people. We're going to share a lot of information with you on this free teleseminar for participating in this webinar series. If you want to sign up, please go to our website and fill out the form, and we will send you the information to call into the teleseminar. Stephen?
Yes, we have the ability at this point to answer any questions that you may have. So if you want to type those questions into the chat or the question panel, you can do so, and I will read off the questions and allow the doctors to reply to them. So first question here, do you feel an employee that receives an excellent annual review should expect a salary increase?
That's a very, very good question. I love that question. So the way the question was made shows me that the person who has made that question still doesn't get the difference between activity and productivity. So what I would do with this person, I would sit down with this person, I would say, look, David, you are an excellent staff member. I'd like to give you a raise, a salary raise. However, what I want you to have done, what I want you to have contributed, what I want you to be able to measure your direct relationship with the outcome is I want you to be able to do this much more. If you do this much more, for instance, if you get 5 more appointments per week, if you increase your ability to turn a client visit into a yes by 50%, whatever you decide, then yes, I'll give you a raise, because I know that if this person achieves the outcome I want him to achieve, I'm going to have plenty more revenue to pay them. I don't think that we should give raise based on activity, even if it is an excellent activity, but based on productivity. Show me measurable improvement. Show me what your direct contribution was to the success of the practice, and then I will share with you. For instance, if you go into the exam room and you go over dental treatment plans, and if you can show me, and meaning I can measure, if you can show me that you can get 2 or 3 more dentals a week, then by all means I'll give you a raise, because I know I've made so much more money from your hard work. So base the raises not on how long someone has been on the practice, not even based on how great they are, but on how productive they are, and this can only be judged by numbers.
All right. Any other questions out there from the audience here before we close things out for the series?
Maybe Dr. Matu, how would you answer this question?
That is a good answer. It has to be at some point in our profession, we need to start acting and compensating based on what is the contribution, because at the end of the day, it is the bottom line of the hospital. And I think when you do it on a fairly basis, if you are growing and this person is making contributions, definitely you should give a raise. Just simply by being a good person and having no contribution to the productivity is not enough. And the bottom line comes back to that checklist and monitors. Do you have those? How do you, when you gave the reviews, what made you give the better reviews? And those, is there any production number attached to it? If it was, and you are happy with it, make a goal. Set a goal for next year and say, if we hit this, this is what you get. If I grow 3%, here is your 3%, and here's the bonus. It needs to be on productivity, not simply activity.
Okay. Any other questions?
I'm not seeing any other questions in either the chat or the question panel, so I think at this point we'll go ahead and wrap things up here for the 6th part of the series. Just a reminder to everybody that we will get the recordings to you over the next day or so. I will do my best to get them done as soon as possible. I do have another meeting this afternoon, but if I can get it to you this afternoon, I will. You will receive a link that will contain all 6 webinar parts that you can download and watch at your convenience then. Just keep your eyes peeled for that. It'll get sent to the same email address that you used to register for the series. If you have any questions on the recordings or the series, don't hesitate to give me a call here at Impromed at 1-800-925-7171 or reply back to any of the emails that you receive. Drs. Kornfeld and Mattu, do you have anything else you'd like to say as we wrap things up here today?
Well, it was a pleasure for me to share this important information with you. I tell you it works, and I tell you it is the biggest key to your success. And even if the door to your success is big and heavy, that door has small hinges that a key can open. So even a big door will open on small hinges. It doesn't take much for you to get better results if you improve your client experience consistently.
And I also, from my experience, I want to share is when you start putting your accountability and productivity in place, and when you start looking into the values, your team will respect you. They will really start working on it because they are growing in the process too. One of the human need is every human wants to grow. That's the basic need. And when you put them on that path, they start respecting you. They see the culture evolve, and they want to be accountable. Most people that you might actually fear that they don't want to be accountable, when they know the clear direction, when they know what makes my boss happy, when you put it on the paper and you check it, then they feel more satisfied. They feel more accomplished when they go home at night knowing that I made my boss. I did what I was supposed to do. I did serve my position well. They feel more accomplished. They go home more satisfied. And there's more excitement to come back because they know what is expected of them. So it's not a negative thing. It's a positive thing when you start checking it.
All right. Well, with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up the presentation. Drs. Kornfeld and Mattu, thank you very much for the time and effort that you put into this presentation. It's really some outstanding information that I know that the attendees have enjoyed, and I'm sure they'll look forward to reviewing the recordings that they receive tomorrow, and hopefully they'll attend the teleseminar that you have coming up. I believe you said on the 14th at the same time, 1 o'clock Central, 11 o'clock Pacific. So thanks again, gentlemen, and hope you guys have a great day.
Thank you.